Hi, and welcome to the table. My name's Steve Rain.
I'm Jonathan Hicks.
And I'm Mark Windle.
And this top 5 we're doing are the top 5 underused themes. Now, you might have played a lot of games involving zombies or Cthulhu or trading in the Mediterranean or any game involving trains, but which themes kind of don't come up at all or don't come up rarely that possibly could be done a bit more of. We've came up with top 5 each-ish with a bit of help from friends, I think, because this was quite a hard list to make.
Yeah, it was difficult.
I think you used a Facebook group to give you some inspiration.
Yeah, I'll give you the best ones from there a bit later.
How hard did you find it, Mark?
I found it tricky. Some of them rolled off a bit. It took me a good 20 minutes, half an hour to properly process a few, and then obviously I'm looking. I haven't missed one like the top 500 of Boardgame Geek or something like that, but no, it was really difficult initially, and it kind of got better. I suddenly go, actually, I haven't seen one like this before. Actually. Yeah.
Now there are 100,000 or more games on Boardgame Geek now, so obviously there are probably going to be the games which have some of the themes we're mentioning. We're just saying maybe there should be more, and we haven't just picked random themes either. We've got reasons for picking them. We haven't just picked, say, game on trampolining or whatever, because obviously that would be a very specific game. It probably hasn't been done, but we want reasons for doing the games we've done. So anyway, this might be a bit of a weird list. On to our number 5.
Marvellous. It's number 5.
So for my number 5, there's a lot of games about places in the world. There's a lot of trading in the Mediterranean. There's a lot of old Britain, old France. There's a lot of America. There's Incan games in South America. But there aren't many games based in Australia or New Zealand. I couldn't think of a single one when I did it. And obviously, when people create new games, they like to pick a location, put an abstract location into a dry Euro game or something. But I couldn't think of a single one that's to do with Australia. So for my location-based game, I've gone for Australia/New Zealand.
I think that's a good one. I think there's lots of potential there.
Sheep farming is heavily known in New Zealand, for instance.
Yeah. Kangaroos, obviously.
Yeah.
There is a Martin Wallace game, I think it was on Kickstarter either earlier this year or last year, that'll be out soon. It is based in Australia.
Okay.
But there aren't many for sure.
There's definitely scope there.
Yes.
My number 5 is something which, because when I was building my list, I thought, what do I really want to be good at, if you like, or really spend my time doing that I can't necessarily do in real life, but it'll be fun to do in a board game. And one thing I came up with was plumbing, because I'm terrible at plumbing. I've had a go over the years at trying to, fix leaky taps and things like this. But it always seems fraught with difficulty, and I'll spend 2 hours trying to solve a problem and find water ends up everywhere. I end up having to call a plumber anyway, and he sort of sorts out in 15 minutes something that I failed to do in 2 hours. So I'm always very impressed, and I know I'm never going to be any good at plumbing in real life. So what I want to be able to do is have a board game about plumbing so I can be good at it in some sphere of life. Because there's always 2 issues for me. One is that the different joints never seem to fit together properly. You buy one bit and it doesn't fit on the one. I'm sure you can incorporate that one. And the other thing is, of course, when you finally turn the water back on, you think you put it all together correctly. Water then just comes out of all the bits.
Is this not just Galaxy Trucker?
Could be, yes.
Oh, that would be great, wouldn't it? It's like a Galaxy Trucker style plumbing game.
I'm sure there's potential there.
Yeah, it's a good pick.
Yeah, that's different. Okay, my one's a kind of a reverse look in a sort of way. I just think like running a board game production company, as in getting designers, getting artists, managing various things.
Yeah.
You kind of talked about this as for another sort of thing. I kind of crossed it with also possibly the equivalent for like video games. But I do believe Pret-a-Porter's getting redone into a video game, but it hasn't been done yet. So because that was a closed sort of catwalk game, and obviously the theme tricky, so he's meant to be redesigned to video game. But that sort of thing. So sort of looking at just managing that sort of style of thing, getting your guys doing the various different tasks.
I imagine a prolific designer of board games would have a lot of scope into what goes on behind the scenes, about how you do that.
I think it'd be quite cool. You'd see things that you wouldn't normally see.
There's the deck builder, the deck building game. You could call it something witty like
board game, the board game,
board gamer, the board making board game, or something like that.
Yes.
Well, I never. It's number 4.
So my number 4 is essentially a game about being an action spy. So I mean, you think James Bond typically, but there are plenty of games I've noticed about espionage, sort of deduction style games. But in terms of the action element, I can't think of any games that really give you that feeling of running around and shooting the bad guys. And so no kind of fantasy or superheroes, but just normal level technology, if you like, but somehow running around fighting the bad guys.
So
the closest one I've come to it, which would seem to encapsulate that feeling for me, is that heist game we saw. It was at Essen originally, wasn't it? Where you're trying to rob the bank essentially, and you're moving around and you're trying to avoid the cameras and the security guards there, and you can end up in a fight with them. So that kind of
Museum Rush.
No, it wasn't that one. It was another one. But anyway, you know what I mean? That feeling of avoiding. There's a little bit of sneaking, but then when you find the bad guys, you might have a bit of a shootout. Something like that.
So like GoldenEye, the N64 game, but in a board game.
Yeah, maybe more Metal Gear Solid. So you don't want to get in sight lines and things like that,
Right.
and so you're the game automates the movement. You're trying to make sure you're not crossing lines and get to your target, kill the target, get out.
Yeah.
So is it Spectre Ops?
Yes, which is that
with more action, but you want to be the guy. You all want to be the guy, kind of running
Sneaking
around.
Yeah.
Okay, and playing against the game. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, my number 4 is playing like the seasons. So I'm thinking so imagine if everybody was playing a different season, so I'm trying to maximise how long my season lasts for. So that means I need to work with summer and we need to work with winter, as they happen either side of me, so I'm trying so we're all sort of working together to maximise. So you care about the other 2 seasons.
Like a tug of war around the table.
Yeah, essentially. I have no idea of mechanisms. But
So you're competing against the person opposite to you?
yeah, essentially, because if I'm winter, I want to minimise summer, because it's best for me. Spring and autumn are better for me than...
Okay.
Okay.
I can't think of mechanisms to get, but as a tug of war around a...
So this kind of links in what I'm going to do next, but basically you have some sort of asymmetric abilities or something, and you're playing winter and you can do this well and not that, because that requires heat.
Yeah, because obviously me and spring, we like a bit of rain, because winter goes snow and then moves in, so we've got things that we share, and I share stuff with autumn, but I don't share anything with summer. He's bad.
I think it's a great idea. There's been a few kind of... there's the photosynthesis, isn't it? And then the cloud one, what's that called?
Petrichor.
Petrichor.
So I could see something like that would be quite interesting.
Yeah, that's good. So basically, what I was thinking of when Mark did this was an asymmetric player power game that plays more than 2 players. There are lots of asymmetric 2-player games like Netrunner and Star Wars Rebellion, but there are not necessarily that many completely different 4-player versions of this game.
Yeah.
And so obviously that kind of comes along with mine, but the theme I picked for my asymmetric game is insects. Now when I was trying to think of games with insects in, Hive is just an abstract game that's kind of tugged insects on. The only one I could really think of was Miriam's.
There's a couple of different ant games actually.
Which is ants alone, but if you had spiders which could climb things, and ants which just had tons of things, and bees which could fly or whatever, and you could play these different things, and I don't know whether it's area control or whether you're
a 4X game of different unit types. I got my flying unit,
whatever it might be. Could be like Insect Wars or something. But you are playing insects, which is a theme that's it's definitely underused. But you are playing a race that has completely different abilities to everyone else, which is kind of why I picked it.
Yeah, I like
that's cool.
Extraordinary. It's number 3.
Okay, so my number 3 is I want to play like the haunted house, or rather, I want all the players to be being the bad, like the haunting of itself. I know you've got essentially on the haunted house on the hill, where you have one person be out, but I want everybody. We're all trying to the ghost or equivalent, like doing that. We're trying to scare the people. Whether it's by setting up trap things to happen and stuff, or just being the ghost and doing stuff. I haven't really decided past that, but I just want to play the ghosts. I want to be the one scaring the people.
You could spend resources, couldn't you, to build traps and stuff?
Yeah. Like the mirror suddenly changes and something, an image appears.
So it's a bit like
Dungeon Lords.
Dungeon Lords.
But for a haunted house.
But for a haunted house.
Yeah, okay.
So this links in with my number 3. My number 3 was going to be a whole thing is backwards themes. Basically, if I said there's this new game, there's diseases that are taking over the world and whatever, and if I said which side do you think you're going to play, well invariably you're going to play the people fighting the diseases. If I said there's a new game about colonising Africa, well invariably you think you're going to be the guys colonising Africa. You rarely think in games like this that you are playing the opposite side. So if there's a game about a haunted house, you would think you were the people going into the haunted house. However, you're playing the haunted house. So I kind of wanted that, and the theme I picked for this is a backwards tower defence game. So normally, if I say, here's a tower defence game, you think I'm the guy in the tower and I'm fighting off waves and waves of bad guys.
Oh, I see.
Okay,
Yeah.
and it's not. This is not a one versus many. This is just like Mark said, not one person playing the haunted house. Everyone's playing the haunted house. In this case, I want everyone to have several units of bad guys that they're swarming to attack, and maybe you could see what defences they're going to be building next turn, so you can decide what bad guys you need next turn to overcome the defences, and you have either cooperatively or individually trying to beat down a particular structure.
So a reverse Castle Panic, essentially.
Yeah, effectively reverse Castle Panic or something like that. But basically, my overall arc was just a reverse theme where you're playing the side you wouldn't think you're playing if you were given the theme itself.
No, that's a nice idea.
Spirit Island kind of did that.
Yeah.
That was the only one I think of.
I was thinking of Stronghold. For the person who's attacking the Stronghold, they're essentially doing that, but you've got another person on the
You're
other
right,
side.
there's definitely with every genre you think, oh, you're doing this, but you want to just change it.
And I don't want it like one versus many. Sometimes someone is playing the bad guy, someone is playing the bad guy in Ghost Stories or Fury of Dracula or something.
So you want it to be cooperative?
Or competitive, but but you're playing against the game.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Alright. I've forgotten mine. Number 3, isn't it?
It is number 3.
Oh, okay, yes. Now, this is just something that I really appreciate in life. I appreciate people who are very good at it, because I'm not really very good at it, and that's photography. I'm always impressed, actually, with Ross. If you check out his Instagram, More Games Please, I think it's called. He does fantastic shots of
We'll
board
put a
games.
link underneath.
But I've always looked at his photos and go, oh, I'd love to be able to take photos like that. And actually, I'd love to have a board game about that. I can't think at all mechanically how it's going to work, but it would look great on the table. Because you'd have lots of really nice pictures in there somehow. But it's how you combine them together. It's the whole depth of field. You know, somehow some bits are in focus and the bit behind is slightly out of focus. Combining different elements. I don't know, but it's a skillful pursuit, I think, and something that would be interesting.
I wonder if you could do this in an app where you could have like a box of bits and you say, right, someone's commissioning you to have a photo that looks a bit like this. And then you've got to use your camera phone with the app and get the bits out, and you've got to try and replicate the photo as near you can, and somehow it judges you.
You'd be going for prestige, I think. And if you're struggling for cash, you could always go and do some wedding photography on the side. But really, you want the ones that everyone goes, oh wow, that's a great photo.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Spiffing. It's number 2.
So, I used to be a teacher, and when I came to do this list, I was struggling, and I think, what did I used to kind of, in teaching, did I struggle to do? And that would be sort of like being a teacher and being in charge of a class, and like maybe you get a new kid to your class. I don't know how this would work, but basically there's no themes on teacher. You maybe get a new kid to your class, and you say, where would you like to seat little Johnny? And you can say, I'll put him next to Sarah, and you go, lose 2 points, he doesn't play well with girls. And you're effectively trying to seat these kids in a place so that they learn the best or something. I have no idea how it works, but being a teacher myself, and I think a lot of board gamers have come from teaching or to some extent, or been in school, everyone's been in education, I suppose. Everyone's got experience of doing that, but there are no games that exist that do that to my knowledge.
I think it'd be an interesting theme, certainly based around a school. There were a couple of suggestions on the Facebook group, actually, of teaching. But yeah, I struggle to think how you could work out teaching as a game. But certainly the school is an interesting setting.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder, because remember we played that little airplane game where we were trying to sit people.
Yeah.
But but more detailed, so you're giving each child a personality that you're trying to, in the base, if you're talking about your seats all over.
I wonder if it's just even an abstract, like, timed game. So like Dimension, you get certain rules that you can't sit this girl next to any boys, and you've got to seat them all down you've got to get them all down in a minute, and then you score how well your cluster is. I have no idea how that's going to work, but like as a theme, it's unique.
I'm thinking more like Dinosaur Island, where you're trying to manage a school and you have to employ different teachers, and you have these unruly kids. And if the what was it? It's like the danger level or something. Dinosaur Island, wasn't it? Security level. If your security's not high enough, then the kids start running amok, running down the corridors and destroying things, graffiti.
I definitely think there's scope there. And the thing is, it's a thing that everyone has participated in. Everyone will have been in school at some point.
You can identify with it. No, that's good. All right, my next one is racing. Now, I know what you're going to say. There are tons of games about racing. The problem is that every racing game I've ever come across is slow. And thematically, the one thing a racing game needs to be is fast. So what I want is a real-time racing game. I can't think how it would work, but somehow a kind of Galaxy Trucker almost style where you're frantically competing for bits, and when you manage to do certain things, you kind of advance your piece or something, but something that would be over in 10 minutes, where you're actually racing around a track. I was thinking of different kinds of racing, and personally, motorbike racing would be my favourite. But any kind of real-time racing game, I'd love to see that.
There's a game called Pit Stop or something.
Yeah.
Where you are, it's a card-based game, and you're trying to put cards on each wheels, and you and your teammate are trying to get combinations of cards on the wheels to score points, and engines and bonnets and stuff. And once you've completely sorted your car out, even if you haven't scored very many points, you can start going. You pull out of the pit stop.
Okay.
And you're rolling just a d6, and every time you roll a 6, you move your car once forward. So if you finish ahead of someone else, even if you've not scored that many points there, you start moving around the track. And when the last person has left the pit stop, the game stops, and you score your car, and for every point your car gets, you move an extra one forward. So if you leave the pit stop early with a bad car, you've still got time to kind of get far enough ahead so that the other people can't catch you up with a good car.
I quite like the whole, was it dice, what's the Star Trek style dice game where you keep rolling and rolling?
Space Cadets? No.
Dice, yes, basically it's Dice Duel.
Dice Duel.
Where you're just rolling and rolling and rolling. I quite like that as a mechanism. Something like that with a racing game would be good.
So something Fuse style.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can roll it as many times as you like, but you're limited because it's real time.
Okay. Yeah. I think that will.
A fast racing game would be good.
Yes. Okay, my number 2 is just the God Sim. Because think populace.
Oh, yeah.
You think all these civilizations. I want to be raising mountains and moving my civilization. I want to be creating the earth while my little people moving around, and I just want that power.
Populace was great. I really love that.
Something just that bit scale up.
And the more followers you have, the more god points you get.
Yeah, and stuff like So
they worship you.
Yeah, so they're essentially your points. People are your points.
They get more action points. Yeah.
You'd have the land would be sort of really bumpy, wouldn't it? In order to get your civilization to build certain buildings, you'd have to flatten some areas and pull some.
But that's going to use some of your power. So that's your resources. So
you can make a nice big area for them to build buildings. Yeah. But then you're using resources. Yeah. Oh, that's a great idea.
It's not been done.
Yeah, it's not been done.
I don't know why. I mean, we've got all these through the age and stuff, but we've had nothing proper God Simish.
I like that. That's good. That's good. Make it.
By Jove, it's number 1.
So now to number 1. It's our usual customary random question from Steve. What order did we enter the house today?
I was the first one in.
I was just behind you.
And I was first.
So off we go. This way down.
All right. So I sat back and thought, of all the possible themes I could ever play a game about, what would be my absolute favourite theme that I'd love to play a game about? And for me, it's escaping from a maze. Now, there are games like Escape, where you're sort of pulling out tiles and things, but the problem with all these games is that you effectively have an overview, a top-down view of the entire maze. So there's no difficulty in working out where as you go. We're here, the exit's there, well obviously we need to go that way. But when you're actually in a real hedge maze, all you can see is like, I could go this way or this way, and you go around here and then there's another junction, and then you come back and that bit's a dead end, but then there's another junction. You don't have the top-down view. So there's never any maze-solving skill required in all of these escape games because you can see the entire maze. I want a game that somehow simulates the moving around inside a maze so that you have to sort of put together kind of mentally a map of what things connect with what, and because they're often very difficult to do. Although there are obviously some strategies, maybe you always turn left or something, but different kinds of mazes can defeat certain strategies. So I'd love to play a game about escaping from a maze.
That's a really nice idea. I haven't got a clue how you'd do that.
No, I
would have to bring a choose your own adventure. Do you go left or right? Turn to page.
I wonder if you might have to integrate technology somehow.
I'd want to have a pre-designed maze as well. So not just random card. The problem with random card draws or tile draws, or whatever,
particularly easy ones or difficult.
Yeah, and it can just be random. Just you go into one area and it's dead end, dead end, dead end, dead end. It's like, well, you'd never design a maze like that. So I want, you could make a set of predefined mazes, something for people to play through. But yeah, that's what I really want. It's made them think.
So what about? I don't know how you could do this. What about if you have like a 5x like a 10x10 grid face down, and you pick a starting tile, and maybe there's a preset There's a preset thing about how to
they've got
set it
numbers
out.
on the back of the tiles,
and then you flip over the one that tells you to start in, and if you want to so from here we can only go left or down. Okay, I'm going to go down. Flip that one back over and flip the next one up.
Yes.
So you can try and remember where you've been to, and you can try and remember which tiles you haven't yet seen.
But you can only see the one you're
You
on.
can only see the one you're on.
Yeah.
And you know that the exit's somewhere on the edge of the board. The only problem with that is that once you learn which number's an exit...
But it wouldn't necessarily be the same...
Oh, because it wouldn't be, because it will be rotate...
Yes, they can be different orientations.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Might take a while setting up. We're on that. Cancel recording.
You get copyright in.
So my number one is a game that it's probably the reason I suggested this list, because it was a game that I thought this would be really nice as a Euro game. And I know there is a miniatures game on this thing before, but in general it seems to be underdone, and that is the 7 Deadly Sins. I was talking about 7 Deadly Sins or the 7 Virtues, and I was talking to some people and I said, which one would you rather play? And without a doubt, everyone said Sins. I want to play the Sins. And this would be some sort of, the way I was thinking about doing it, some sort of Euro game where you've got 7 tracks, and maybe there's a 4-player game, there's a bit of track, and there might be a track called Greed. Okay, and if I take an action spot on the board that gets me 2 gold, I can move down on the Greed track, and the other person will move up, and I would get a 3rd gold. But I'm lower down on one of the Sins.
So like you use them up to get better stuff.
Or maybe you start on 0 on every sin, and you just go down, and maybe you can go down to -10. At the end of the game, you'll lose 10 points to get to the bottom.
Yes.
But you're using that sin to gain you stuff. And you can have envy. Jonathan's just got 2 wood. Brilliant. I'm going to use my envy to take a wood from the supply because I'm envious of Jonathan's. Or whatever you do. And I haven't got a clue as to why you're doing this, or whatever. But I just think it would be brilliant to just have, like you're being corrupt. You're corrupting yourself, but to get benefits within some sort of game constraint.
So you're trying to minimise how sinful you become.
Correct.
But you want to be a bit sinful because it makes it much easier to get stuff.
Maybe at the end of each round, you lose. The person at the bottom of each track loses a point, or whatever you do. I don't know how you go about doing it, how you go about scoring it, but there needs to be a detrimental effect to moving down on the tracks, but a positive effect for doing so. You need to be getting something from the game to do so.
Like a Pixie Queen, you could have a massive negative victory point track.
Yeah.
So you keep going further and further down, and you're just trying to minimise.
I would rather than just taking negative points for doing stuff. I would want 7 different tracks. Or, whatever. Maybe you don't play with all 7 sins. Maybe you just play with 4 sins or something.
But I just say if you're losing points for being the lowest on each of the tracks.
I don't know how it's going to work. But obviously that kind of idea kind of festered in my head in a good way. And I thought, that would be really nice if someone could make that work.
So you might be better specialising in greed, so that you're always losing the points for that, but you're not losing the points for the other tracks.
And you're just sat there with lots and lots of resources.
Yeah.
But if you get lots and lots of resources, people who are envious can go, well, he's getting lots. I don't actually have to go to that spot if he's getting lots. Maybe I can just take some off him using my envy.
Yeah.
This is a good idea. Yeah. Well, my number one, I wouldn't say it's intelligence or anything, but it's a theme I'd really like to be able to play. And it half links in with the number 3 and doing this in the reverse. I want a 4X game where I'm the bad guy invading the galaxy. Think of like the Tyranids from 40k or the aliens in Starship Troopers. I want to be scourging the universe. So there's a central controlling power there. Okay. And whether you're doing it competitively or against each other, you're just going into the universe and just destroying it and whatever and eradicating humanity.
So you could almost have 4 different alien factions all trying to destroy the Earth, effectively.
Yes. It could just be an evil entity, but like the bad guy in Fifth Element.
Yeah, anything.
Something that just corrupts things around it.
Yeah, I want that. Especially you have different powers and whatever. I don't know how it's going to work, but it's just that idea of... Because it's always either in like 4K, I'm trying to expand my civilization. I want to be destroying the civilization in the middle.
Yeah, okay.
I want to be the real...
So this is like...
You get points for taking down certain strongholds.
Yeah. So again, you're playing... I quite like the fact that there aren't enough themes on playing the enemy.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
There isn't like 1v many or teams. But yeah, I like that.
So essentially the civilization keeps finding ways to combat us and we have to find ways to work around it, and you just see this littered wasteland in the middle.
They could develop technologies, couldn't they?
Yeah.
That would combat your advances.
Yes. Yeah, and they would their population would get bigger as well, so as they were destroying it, maybe if they finished the round with 10 people, they give birth 5 times and they've got 15 people or something. Yeah, okay. And they could expand a bit more. I like it. So anyway, this is probably the most weird list we've had to write. Have we got any honourable... You said you had some from the Facebook group.
I'll give you some just from the Facebook group because there were a nice variation of suggestions. Everything from bobsleigh, So I can't imagine how that game would work, but that sounds like great fun. To parenting, that reminds me of the teaching one. It's the kind of thing, do you really want to be spending your time playing a game about parenting when it's hard enough in the real world? But actually I think there's lots of scope there for it.
Fog of Love, where you simulate a relationship, didn't you? You could simulate parenting the same sort of thing.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Mark Cook had his obligatory brewing game. Mark always wants games about brewing beer. Someone suggested a game about running a sex dungeon. I have no idea what a sex dungeon is. The mind boggles. But it made me smile. There were lots of entertaining suggestions. In fact, someone talked about having zombie trading in the Mediterranean or something, didn't they?
Yeah.
Combining
On a train.
all the various themes. So there's some great suggestions from you.
So one of mine is Laser Shark Ghost Zombies that Jonathan mentioned in one of his previous videos.
Because why not?
Did you have any honourable mentions, Mark?
Yeah, I had maybe something like unlocking some of his memories, like whether you play neuropath race through the brain or something like that. I don't know. Just I haven't really.
Did you see the...
I know there's the person, the one you're talking about, the one with the guy in the bed, and
Yeah, I
you
can't
mix it.
remember.
But I'm thinking more they've lost their memory, and so you're trying to work it back in. You're giving them the memory back.
Okay.
And then sort of relates. I can't remember the name of the film was recently. Wait, it sort of again relates to the climate one, but like if you're playing different emotions of a person.
Oh, you're Inside Out. No,
yeah.
The one with the 5 different anger and joy and... Was it Inside Out?
Might have been. I didn't see it, but yeah, you could be playing different emotions.
That's nice. I like that idea.
And you're trying to balance things, yeah. The only one I had that hadn't been mentioned is airports, where your plane's landing and taking off, and you're like air traffic control or something. Or
Air traffic control.
I did actually think of that as a real time.
Like as real time, or just like
I was thinking
airport security.
Yeah.
And you're trying to get your people onto the plane before it takes off, and
Because if the security level's not high enough, then the terrorists might get through.
Yeah.
But if it's too high, it takes too long to get everyone to security, and the planes get delayed, and that would be nice.
But that just feels like work.
Yeah, I mean, I work in aviation, so I'm used to like looking at all of, like the slots and like Heathrow having 2 minute the slots between the landing time and the speed at which there's a lot of interesting things goes behind the scene.
So if you've got a unique theme, obviously we've kind of brainstormed a bit. As someone said a theme, we're like, ooh, that's really nice, you could do this with it. If you've got one that you think, this is a theme I've thought about, or maybe put it in the comments and other people and ourselves can comment on your theme and whether it would fit in our list as well.
And if you've heard our suggestions for themes and you're like, oh, I know a game that does that perfectly, then do let us know below. Because it'd be great to play some of these games.
And then we don't have to sit there trying to make it after our suggestions.
Please remember to like and subscribe. We would appreciate it.
Yeah, really helps.
Anyway, that's our top 5 underused themes. I've been Steve.
I'm Jonathan.
Hello, Mark.
See you later.
See you later.